ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. Get yours today at thebuttkicker.com and be sure to use our 20% discount promo code ISCA20.
It is the biggest and the baddest track on the entire NASCAR calendar, and it is the longest track at that. It's the Talladega Superspeedway, and tonight it plays host to the Rock Auto 250. Hello, one and all, and welcome to the iRacing Stock Car Association ButtKicker Super Cup Series for round number 2 in the round of 6 for the playoffs. My name is Dola Rempel. I have got none other than Brian Britt up beside me in the broadcast booth. And this time joining us is Chris Severa, also in the broadcast booth with us. Rob Melnick, also acting as technical director down behind the cameras for tonight's race. So, Brian, it's Talladega Superspeedway. It's a track that demands you work as a team. You reckon we're going to be a lot of team play out here tonight?
Oh, yeah, 100%. It's going to be pretty much all about that. I mean, it's all going to be about, numbers. And if a big one does strike, it's going to be all about how many teammates survive. Very scared for these guys out here. Do not envy them one bit, as this is going to be someone with anxiety's nightmare.
Absolutely. It's going to be finding those dance partners and not making enemies early. It's definitely going to make the difference in your race here, because God forbid you get separated from your teammates, you're going to have to find yourself working with somebody.
This is a track where you can easily find yourself at speeds of excess of 200 miles an hour. And, of course, at those fast speeds, anything can happen, especially when you take a look over at the playoff stand. As Kyle Labrie still comes into today, and he is currently, in the lead of the points, 9.5 points up from Justin Levine. But from there, it is just 5 points that separate second, third, and fourth. And, of course, that is the cut line in the playoffs as well. Brian Johnson just 11 points up from Kenny Powell. Boyd Hogan appears to be another no-show here on the night, Brian. So with all this in mind, it means that Hogan could be in trouble here if he wants to keep that championship alive.
Yeah, I think that might be the nail in the coffin there. And it's going to look good for some of those guys that really didn't feel like maybe could have secured their way in. But nothing is ever guaranteed. Talladega, one of them, almost a cheese grater when it comes to playoffs. Could really see some guys sad tonight.
Yeah, as we see these guys going around qualifying now, I don't know about you guys, but for a race as long as this one, I'd actually prefer to start in the back of one of these, maybe getting organized out with my teammates rather than taking that gamble starting in the front row. Because you take that gamble, you don't get up there. You take that risk of starting mid-pack. I think it's definitely a place where you're going to want to be up towards the front there or hanging around out back. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm kind of the opinion. I think up front would be the best place because I mean you don't know how slow these guys are going to be, how much they're going to be working together. Considering this is open setup, a lot of guys are going to be varying on setups. I'm curious. I mean, I think up front's going to be the safest place considering when things go wrong, that's where you want to be.
Well, not to mention, of course, you think of the draft package as well and how hard it is to make moves. It means that qualifying is a lot more important nowadays than it was in years past. You can't just make these 8-car bonsai charges up to the front of the grid anymore. You need to have a large group of people to work with you. So being up in front, it actually would help you significantly because that way you can make sure you're already at the front of the field. It's a lot less work that you're going to have to do later on.
As we see some of these times starting to come in, we got J.R. Patella, the 50.5. We see our first 49 going up there. Justin Levine, he's up there in the points. So definitely, like you guys say, a couple of these guys are definitely looking to start up there towards the front.
Chad Sullivan logs in a 50.014. That'll put him up to third.
Now, I will say, being up front, you're not necessarily safe either, though. I mean, you could get a little bit of an errant push or something like that, not necessarily square, and easily spin out right in front of everybody. So not even the leader is going to be safe out here.
Yeah, absolutely. As much as tempting it is to be out front, especially once you start to become that third or that fourth car in that single file line, as tempting it is to be on the bumper, the second guy. You just want to really give them as much support as you can with that air bubble. But like you said, the slightest tap on it can get you out of shape at 200 plus miles an hour, and then, oh boy, we're in for a ride there.
Yeah, I think it really all depends on where you get that bump at. I mean, if you're in the corner and you get that and you hit that apron, you're probably going to shoot right back up to the top like a cannonball. But if you get an errant bump on the straightaway, might not be the worst thing that could happen.
Absolutely. You get these little bumps on the straightaways, so they can definitely help you at least increase a run, if not just being able to hold on to what precious little positions you have. It's going to be critical to work with your team with these little bumps as well, and no doubt we've seen a lot of the guys like Frontline Motorsports, and don't forget Gas and Go Racing as well, that are going to be working together big time throughout the course of today's race as they try to get themselves a best of a finish as possible. Qualifying, though, is just wrapping up. Just a couple of seconds left on the clock, so we're going to take a quick step away, and we'll swing on over to the National Anthem and be back with you in just a few moments.
Race fans, it is time for those most famous words in motorsports.
Driver, start your engine!
Qualifying is complete. The national anthem has been sung, and the famous words of motorsports have been spoken. Let's take a rundown for your butt kicker starting grid. Justin Levine, the only driver to set a 49-second time in qualifying, starts us off on pole position. He's got his frontline teammate of J.R. Petrella beside him on the front row. It's a front line 1, 2, 3 with Heath Schneider just 4 thousandths back from Petrella over there in third place, with Chad Sullivan beside him in the Reaper Speed Labs number 21 in fourth. Josh Ward rounds out the top 5 with Kyle Labrie in 6th. Brian Johnson and Chris Johnson, both 7th and 8th. Rebuczynski and Kenny Powell round out the top 10 here, Brian.
Paul Smallenberg going to be lining up in 11th. That 72 been looking very strong here in qualifying. 12th is going to be Mark Sanchez. 13th, Connor McCulkin. See, I mess up names too. Wayne Grassi, 7 car, looking pretty good in 14th. 15th, David Phillips. Corey Cook going to be in 16th. 17th, Josh Schaffner. 18th, Seth Hollander. 19th, John Mullins. And 20th, Randy Drumhiller. That's the top 20 there. Back to you.
And that'll put Craig Johnson in 21st place. Paul Daniel II in 22nd. Robert Patgill, the last driver to set a qualifying lap, down there in 23rd. Further behind him, drivers that have not set times yet. Jeffrey Souza in 24th. Clayton Hoffman in 25th. Chris Severa, well, not participating because he's up here in the booth with us. So we'll move back beside him. It's Roy Hyde, technically in 26th place. John Ballou, 27th. Al Kozlowski, 28th. Brian Littleton, 29th. And that'll put Paul Olson in 30th place. Alan Hinson and Jarrett Phillips are going to be rounding out the 32-car field for us tonight. Alan Hinson has missed the starting call, so it'll be a 31-car field. That'll take us back to the green flag. So we just now have to wait on the pace car to lead the field around this 2.6-mile super speedway. Chris, before we get tonight's race underway.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing these cars get up to speed here. We know with this new draft model, the bottom lane is definitely the place to be. Once that bottom lane starts to wind up its momentum, it doesn't tend to stop going until these guys get up to top speed. So look for these guys up here starting in the top lane to be looking for just about any hole they can get, any help from any of their teammates. They really want to get down soon and get down early. Or then again, because this first stage here is only 20 laps, maybe you might see a little bit more of a tussle for those stage points.
Yeah, 100%. I think that top line might be, it definitely takes time to come in. But, I mean, if some of these guys are really determined and push well enough, I think they could get it going early here. But I think it gets very disorganized, in the opening laps. That's for sure.
You mentioned, of course, the stages coming into the night. Stage 1 is on lap number 20. There is a bit of a shake-up in the stages. Stage 2 ends on lap 57 before we run the remaining laps out green to, of course, a 94-lap race. Now, the reason why that was done is because race control wanted there to be a little bit of a strategy thrown in when it comes to fuel. So stage 1 is going to be good to push to the end on fuel. Stages 2 and 3, you are going to have to make a green flag stop should it go completely green. So just going to enter turn number 3 now. I want to remind everybody else as well that this race is sponsored by Rock Auto and, of course, ButtKicker, the title sponsored series as well. You can get yourself 25% off on all ButtKicker products by using ISCA 20 for the promo codes. Excuse me, that's 20% off on all ButtKicker products at thebutkicker.com. That is ISCA 20. So, gentlemen, coming around turns 3 and 4, your final thoughts before we go green.
Wow, I mean, I thought at 25%, I was about to get on the website right now. But yeah, I think this is going to be a great race here. I mean, I'm curious what these guys are going to do. I know the pressure's on. I mean, especially at a track like this, such historic.
Pressure's on. Communication is going to be key, and keeping that fuel in the back of your mind is definitely going to be the number one priority for the race tonight.
And we're happy that you're joining us on a Thursday night for more stock car racing action from the iRacing Stock Car Association. Pace car is off. It's a long trip around to the restart zone. Just waiting on the iRacing starter to get this race underway. Justin Levine waiting patiently. The field stacks up. A green flag drops. We are underway in Alabama.
And already, just like you said, I mean, switching lines already, Chris, so you were right on the money. But then we saw a really interesting switch. Justin Levine switching up to the top. Looks like some guys trying to get with their friends here.
Yeah, Levine moved up to help the 42 of JR. Definitely trying to help the teammates get in line and get in line early. As you see that top lane start to get a little disorganized. You see the top 2, big space back there to the 24 Kenny Powell. as these guys still look to find their ways. And I know they almost get hooked there. But it looks like there's going to be a little bit of give and take, as it looks like there's that the 9 of Kyle Debris finds his way in line.
Yeah, it's a little early for these guys to be acting wild and crazy, so it's good to see a little give and take, but I think that's going to go away as the race goes on.
I know Kenny Powell nearly found himself being turned across the nose of David Phillips II. Tried to come down to the back straightaway. Didn't quite work out for him. That outside line dropping back in a hurry. Currently headed up by Chad Sullivan. You can watch the whole inside line just steaming through on the inside line. But up in front, Justin Levine leads lap number 1 from the pole. He's got frontline teammates J.R. Petrella and Heath Strider just in behind. So frontline is looking very secure at the moment with 1, 2, 3.
And these opening laps, especially right now, you're getting to a really critical point as these guys are all just about up to speed. If these guys in the back of the pack here is where you're going to find the only side-by-side racing. If they don't get in line quick, if they side draft each other, very easily to find yourself separated from the main pack.
Yeah, I think that's like really happening right now as we speak, as we see the 10, I do believe, try to get down there. Hopefully these guys can try to get on this draft. I mean, we kind of talked about how, you know, before the broadcast, about if you get a half a second away from another car. Oh, we see some contact here. The 31 and the 10, I do believe. Oh, back up on the racetrack.
Sanchez hard to the outside wall, slides down the racetrack. Seth Hollander is in it as well. A 2-car pileup in turn number 1, but no caution because it was off the racing line. Sanchez tried to come down and get inside, just doored Seth Hollander. Nowhere for the 10-car to go.
Wow, that was just crazy, and so unlucky for a caution not to come out for those guys. As we see the field all single file out now, and yeah, you could just, looking back at this replay here, you can see the 10. I don't know if he should have came back up there like that, but I mean, once you get on that apron, it's so hard to gain control of that race car again.
It's a bit of a reckless situation to find yourself in on just the second lap of the race. Sanchez was saying his spotter told him he was clear. That's definitely an interesting one for me. You wouldn't think that would be the case. You can see Mark Sanchez about to be lapped here by the guys on the back straightaway. There's a lot of fellows that are very unpleased, so to speak, for that. A lot of guys had damage out of that. I know Clayton Hoffman and Paul Olsen were both lucky to get it out of that one, Chris. But Seth Hollander and Mark Sanchez, their races are basically over before it's even begun.
Yeah, a lot of jostling back there towards the end of the pack. Like we said, with this new draft model, it's not as big of a bubble in terms of when you get the suck up to the car in front as what these guys may be used to. If you fall, it's very easy to fall more than half a second back, and as soon as you fall back past that half second point, you're no longer benefiting from the draft of the car in front of you. So very quickly, you can find yourself out of the draft of these lead pack guys. You see them all single file now, so if you're unlucky enough and they don't check up in order for you to get back up to them, as we see about only 3 cars now back there still trying to fight on the high side, seeing if they can't get anything going. But you can very easily lose this lead group, as we almost see about 2 packs just about starting to form here.
Yeah, I do believe those guys are kind of at that point now to where it's no man's land. They're all going to be running by themselves. I mean, like you mentioned, you know, once you just separate from those guys just a little bit, it's almost like a death nail in your race, and it's so unfortunate when you're back there watching that pack just drive away and there's nothing you can do.
So quarter of stage 1 already done and gone. The only side-by-side action. You're watching it now. Kenny Powell dropping even further down the order. Such a shame for Kenny Powell. Started up in 10th place and he is all the way back now in the bottom 10 drivers. So Powell having a rough run tonight. And he was side-by-side for some time along with his teammates Al Kozlowski. You got guys like Brandon Drumhill in this grouping as well. Then, of course, you got Chad Sullivan. Started 4th place. He's down to the 21st position now. So he's also having a bit of a rough night. And hoping to maybe see if he can improve. These guys are trying to catch back up to the main grouping, but it is just 7 of them trying to work together against a group of 17. It's going to be a hard ask for them.
Yeah, and it looks like it is just sorting out to be that. You got the number 6, John Ballou, leading this second group now. If these guys have now fallen back to more than a second off that lead group, fortunately enough for them, this run is only the first one of the stage, and they're not at risk of going a lap down. As long as they don't get too desperate and turn one another, pending a caution or anything, these guys will be fine to get back up to that group in due time.
Well, one thing I think that's really slowing these guys down too is we see Littleton and Roy Hyde up there on top. I don't think these guys should be fighting with each other because I mean it's so temporary to even be fighting. I mean, if you have any chance of catching those guys ahead, you really need to just run single file and try to run the best laps you can.
I mean, by now, there's no point in going single file out again because they've lost the draft of the league room by now. They're only fighting amongst themselves, but... Oh, and
three wide.
Go 3 wide. Kozlowski up the middle of his own teammate, Kenny Powell. Nearly gets in with Sullivan as well. I tell you what, this is a bit too close for comfort considering your race response outside of the stage points. You know there's going to be another caution. Yeah, there's no point in running like this. I mean, you're going to have plenty of chances to be able to, go for these positions later on in the race. Why are you trying to, get some of these situations where you can easily find yourself jumped so early on? I mean, you got a stage caution coming up in under 20 laps.
Well, the only thing I could think of is maybe this is a little bit of extended practice with a little bit of higher risk on the other side of here. Maybe these guys just want to see what their cars are capable of doing towards the end of a race if they need it, but yeah, you got to get to the end of the race first.
I mean, now, because of all of that, Brian, you can see the entire second pack has now been completely split apart as a result. I mean, you got the two guys that are working together, John Ballard and Chad Sullivan, that are broken clear, and they're going to be in their own little two-car tandem here if these guys keep fighting this out the way they are.
Yeah, now we almost got 3 packs. I mean, wow. Just crazy to see for sure, and hopefully these guys are learning some lessons on what to do in that final stage, because you're not going to get away with this in that final stage.
And on the other end of the spectrum here, you got Justin Levine, JR, Heath, and Josh, and Brian. Brian Johnson, all your top 5 up here in this league group. They all just seem very content right now, just to ride. And you see actually a little bit of bumps coming from the 42 of JR onto Justin. Maybe these guys might be able to hook up towards the end of the race. Because these cars, it's extremely hard to do, but if you can get these cars hooked up and actually leaning up against one another, you can pull a couple of tenths away from a pack, even with everybody up at speed. But again, that is very difficult to do if you see a caution hit the field.
That's an interesting one. Yellow flag is out. I am not sure why the flag is out, though. I'll take a look around and see if I can find out what brought out our caution flag. That is a strange one, though.
Yeah, definitely not sure. Oh, I do believe it was Paul Daniels having a little bit of a blinking issue and then turning sideways. That could have been it. He has a lot of front end damage now.
Really? That's interesting. Paul Daniel the second. Oh, you're right. John Mullins. John Mullins got turned by Paul Daniel, and the 64 car blinks out. That is what happened there to bring out our first caution flag of the day. No wonder I was such a trouble finding it, because Mullins, he is no longer here.
Definitely was not very obvious on what took place there. I mean, it seemed like everybody was single filed out. It seemed like it was some safe racing. But I'm curious what these guys are going to do now. I mean, you think anybody's going to be coming down pit road, or are they just going to stay out for the stage?
It's a good eye on catching that one as well, Brian.
Oh, that's what I got to do. I got to keep my eyes open.
Well, definitely. I think they would stay out here. Don't want to give up that track position, knowing that you're already good on fuel to the end of this first stage, and you definitely don't want to give it up to just have to come down again on lap 20.
I can certainly agree with that one, especially since you can double stint the tires if you really have to. I mean, you can go with full fuel run, go about 2 stints maybe on these sets of tires without having too much of a struggle. So there's no reason for you to really come down pit road. You're good on fuel. I agree with you there, Chris. I mean, don't come down and sacrifice the track position when you can just stay out and you're still good to the end.
Yeah, get those stage points. Yeah, I agree totally. Just curious on maybe some guys maybe do some Hail Mary things for long term, but I don't know if it's going to really help out.
Now, it would be interesting to see if you get some of those guys in the back of the pack, maybe if they come down top off now, and then once the stage hits, maybe they stay out, and possibly that puts them within the fuel window for coming to the end of stage number 2. I'll have to double check on the numbers on that, but that may be a thing. It looks like everybody's just going to stay out here anyway.
Well, there is about 8-9 cars that did decide to come down pit road. They were headed on up by Craig Johnson, dropping out of 15th place in that league grouping. But apart from that, it is, the usual suspects you'd expect. The guys that were further towards the back of the field who already weren't battling it out too hard. I know Paul Olsen had some serious troubles getting into his pit box, had to reverse in and out a couple of times for the 43 machine. But apart from that, does appear to be smooth sailing for everybody else.
You know who I'm surprised did not go down pit road? Paul Daniels. I mean, and a lot of the other guys that did receive damage. I mean, that would have been the best time to really go down there and try to get some of that fixed.
Yeah, I know Paul is racing from Australia, so his ping is a little bit higher than others, so it is possible that the damage we're seeing on the front end of his vehicle may not be there. It did look like a very awkward, definitely a netcode-induced spin that we saw from Josh there. So, an unfortunate netcode issue, but it may be a case of we're not seeing exactly what Paul is seeing.
Could very well be the case. Yeah, 100%.
It certainly wouldn't be the first time. So, under caution for the first time. Damage to some drivers. A couple guys wanted to come on down, make that pit call. Whether they come down again in stage 1, we'll have to wait and see. We'll take a quick step away, and we'll be back with the restart in just a few minutes.
ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. Get yours today at TheButtKicker.com and be sure to use our 20% discount promo code ISCA20.
Well, we come back live, and what perfect timing is this? Lights are out, freshly on the pace car. A couple more drivers did decide to come on down just to top up on fuel. Among those, you got Brian Littleton, Roy Hyde, and then, of course, John and Balu also in pit road. No doubt a couple of these guys also do some last-minute damage top-ups as well. Chad Sullivan also came down, just one lap to go. Drivers that are currently laps down, you got John Mullins, 2 down, but he has left the session since then. You got Mark Sanchez and, of course, Seth Hollander, who are in pit road, fixing damage, and also appear to be down and out for the count. So 1 lap to green, and we'll get back underway for the final 7 laps of stage 1.
And just real quick, hearing the drivers talking, it seems like the 36 is actually relaying over the radio that he is actually down a little bit on RPM, so just going to need to watch him on these restarts here.
That tells me that damage we were talking about, if that was actually there, if it's actually phantom damage, O'Brien, that tells me that damage is a bit more real than I think he'd like.
Yeah, that's what really surprises me, that he didn't take that opportunity to try to fix that up. I mean, definitely would have helped.
Yeah, definitely any front-end damage here putting the motor at risk. You can definitely blow at any point.
Taking some
Talladega
tape
can
off.
be very tricky with that, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it's so easy to blow up, especially when you're deep in the pack and behind a lot of race cars. I mean, no clean air really going to be getting on that nose. So we have to really keep an eye on that. It could be a ticking time bomb out there.
It takes that one blow up, especially in the middle of a pack or the front of a pack, to cause a massive checkup. I had that happen once before at a Daytona race. Somebody was running the outside line with a huge group of cars running in first place. Guy blows the motor, and 2 seconds later, he's being rear-ended.
Yeah, and it's so hard to even recognize something like that's going to happen. You know, you only have literally microseconds to even react to something like that.
Absolutely, as these guys see the pace car going to pull off one more time, see if these guys can't get going as easily as they did on the initial start. As we see the 19 and Justin Levine in control of the field, just waiting on him, his go anytime. Green flag is back out, and we are racing once again. You're probably going to see another replay. As you see those guys queuing up behind the 36, and Paul Daniels already just trying to get around them already.
Wow, did you see that? The wheel spin there. It looks like a lot of these guys, because they were a little bit on older tires, that's one thing that you'll see a lot on restarts.
Whole lot of 3 wide action as well. Paul Schmallenberg and Al Kozlowski dropping back in a hurry. Now it's just Schmallenberg up on the top side of the 72 Toyota Camry, nearly wrecking in a bunch of places on this restart. But it looks like, apart from the initial scare, we do get away completely clean. Everybody manages to double file or single file it out in some cases. The outside line, once again, is good looking set to drop back to the rear. Josh R. Ward headed up that effort in the Function Autosport number 52 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1, but that inside line headed up by J.R. Petrella is absolutely flying.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see that JR was able to win that race, or, to be able to get out in front like that, because I know before I think it was Levine was leading, so curious, I didn't even really see them trade spots.
Well, I believe it was Josh Wood up there on the high line there, but unfortunately it looks like they only got 4 cars with them, and they're steadily dropping back here. Looks like everybody is single file is looking just a ride here. Again, only 5 laps to go in this stage, so we'll see if anybody wants to pop out to the high side, try and go for a little bit more here.
Yeah, 100%.
5 to go.
Definitely the pressure on, but it looks like these guys, like you said, content to ride in line here. Not really fighting each other. The intensity definitely is not rising right now. The only really side-by-side action, like you said, the 52 with Josh R. Ward trying to keep that high line alive, but he just does not have enough help. And, that bottom line just surging ahead, making those guys look like they're standing still, probably going 5 miles faster at least.
Yeah, very hard to get that top line going when you got just about you really can't get anything going on the high side unless those top 3 cars really want to start getting racy up here. And it looks like you got JR, Justin, and Heath all pretty content to push one another up here. They even have a little bit of gap there to Brian Johnson in 4th. So we'll see if anybody wants to make a last-minute move here. Again, probably not. If it was me, I would probably just stay just in line there. I'm probably content with a Stage 1 finish if I'm anywhere up here in the top 10.
And, of course, the stage points do go back from first place all the way back to 10th. It's 5 points for the stage winner, 4.5 for second, 4 for third, 3.5 for fourth, and so on and so forth. Back to the 10th place, who gets just half a point. But we already have been seeing just how precious those half points can be. You need every little scrap that you can get, when you're in a race like this, and, in fact, in a field like this as well. In a race like this, as a matter of fact. It's not an easy track to race at all, and I think, Brian, we're definitely already seeing some of the hazards of what can happen with just some minor, even technical difficulties further on earlier in the race.
100%, but you can also see where the success can come in here. I mean, we saw in that, first initial run there, Kenny Powell was struggling pretty hard, but, he's up to 10th right now, following right behind Keselowski.
Yeah, again, you're going to see a couple of those guys who were struggling early on there, lost that initial draft. Definitely this caution being a bit of a blessing for them, and able to be up here and getting points now for this Stage 1 finish.
Top 3 almost look like they're trying to break away from Brian Johnson. And it looks like they might even be starting to succeed here. Look at Heath Schneider and Brian Johnson. The gap is growing. Frontline are somehow managing to pull away in a 3-car tandem. And I don't think the blink we're seeing from guys like Greg Wyszynski or Kyle Labrie is helping things at all. That's part of why this grouping is starting to falter a little bit. Nobody wants to push up because you never know. The guy that might phase out for 1 second, they could be right back into it in just a split second, and you have no time to avoid them. Coming around to the tri-oval, though, and pit road will be closed.
Yeah, kind of surprised we don't really see anybody peel off here right before pit road closes. It can be a good call here at Talladega, considering you won't go a lap down, and you'll have that track position whenever everybody else goes to pit road.
Interesting. Now, like you guys say, we got the front line as those top 3 trying to pull away. It's very hard. I don't think you'll be able to see anyone pull away right here at Talladega, but it just seems like everybody here is just content to ride. I don't think we're going to see anyone wanting to pull out. If they do, I think they're probably going to wait until extremely late. Maybe you see some of this frontline guys maybe pop up late to maybe help one of their teammates, Kyle Labrie, sitting back there in 6th place.
I don't know. It just seems like everything is telling me that you don't want to jump out, considering, how important those positions are. You're not sure if anybody's even going to go with you. It seems like it's so difficult to even get something going here with this package.
Jeffrey Sousa and Corey Cook looking to be going a bit side-by-side further down in the field. Of course, that has started immediately. Nobody went up with Corey Cook to help, and that is just causing them to lose touch with the top grouping. So it is going to be a battle for 13th place on Craig Johnson moving out of line. He's trying to set himself up, I have a feeling. Here comes Al Kozlowski trying to get some bonus stage points. Kenny Powell is going to go to help in the GMG Racing Toyota Camry. Going to give him a fierce shot coming around the turns 3 and 4, but the run is already gone up for the front. Here comes Justin Levine trying to go for a stage win. Overtakes Petraro on the outside line. He's trying to follow. Nobody gets to Levine, though, and Justin Levine will win stage number 1.
And look at Heath Snyder able to use that run there. I mean, I didn't think a run could, materialize with this package, but those guys made it happen. What a job!
Yeah, very interesting seeing those guys getting hooked up and just going right on around. If those guys can stay together, like you say, if those top 3 start racing, that's when you'll start seeing this second line come on in, and a bit more of an exciting finish to stage 1 considering the racing there.
So with stage 1 complete, we're going to take a quick step away, and we'll be back with more action from Talladega Superspeedway in just a moment. And we are back at the Talladega Superspeedway, stage 1 complete in the Rock Auto 250. Justin Levine, you're looking at your stage winner. We'll give him a talk in just a couple of moments. But for now, yellow flag pit stops is, I think, the word that we are all thinking about at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. I think green flag pit stops is what's on my mind right now, and I'm sure green flag pit stops are on these guys' minds, considering they're probably planning. Do you think some of these guys are going to run out their gas, or are they going to pit right when the fuel window opens?
It's definitely going to be a very interesting take on stage 2 now. Much different than stage 1, but I think the thought process of many of these guys coming out is, man, I hope I get an odd number when I get to that other green cone.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely want to start on the inside line if you can. As you see Justin just barely slide through his stall. He had to back up just a little bit there.
So Greg Wyszynski going to be the driver to beat them all off of pit road by a huge margin. And in fact, he didn't even make it to his box. Wyszynski misses the pit box.
I was going to say, get through that quick. You might have just sped or just missed your sign completely. As you see, very quick fight off pit road. Looks like he's at the 61, first one off pit road.
In fact, it is. Corey Cook.
Yeah, and if I'm seeing this right, Greg Wyszynski out of the race car.
Yes. Wyszynski did not like the fact that he overshot, and he is now out of the race. Has taken that thing to the garage. So unfortunate there for the number 5 machine. But with all this in mind, we will see if we can get a hold of your stage 1 winner now that the pit stops are complete. Justin Levine, this is Dola Rempel up here in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Yes, I do.
Well, a stage 1 win, and that one came right down to the wire. We weren't expecting such an exciting finish in the first stage.
I knew I needed the stage points to make sure that we're okay for the next round, so all gloves were off. I had to pass JR, and thank God Heath went with me.
So what's going to be the plan then for stage number 2? Obviously, fuel is going to be a huge factor in the second stage. We're expecting maybe not such a big of a train. Might be harder to make a run if you need to go do it again for stage 2 victory.
Trying to figure that out right now with the teammates. It's either stay up front or go in the back and preserve as much fuel and pit when we can.
Option 1 or option 2, and of course, it's going to be a huge discussion, I would imagine, for you to try to figure out what you're going to do. So, well, before I let you go, then, Justin, back down to your team just so you can keep strategizing. Anybody you'd like to shout out for your Bruisey number 19?
Yeah, big shout out to everybody at Frontline, all the hard work that they did this week. This car is awesome, and everybody at Bruzy. Love your stuff. Can't wait to get new stuff.
Thank you, Justin, for taking the time to join us up here in the broadcast booth. We'll move you back down, and thank you for joining us up here. Congratulations on a Stage 1 victory.
Thank you.
That was Justin Levine, your Stage 1 winner at the end of 20 laps. And back down to pit road with Heath Schneider and a couple of other guys for the frontline crew. So it looks like the strategy is go to the back and preserve fuel.
It's very interesting that you see them come and do that. You saw a couple of guys in the Coke race Tuesday night do something very similar. So you don't know if they're coming down pit road, is that to run a little bit longer? Or is that perhaps to undercut as soon as that window is open for them so they can all come down as a team and perhaps get a bigger push in a tighter line of cars running than perhaps the lead group will, and maybe cycle out in front of them come green flag stops.
Yeah, could very well be the case. I mean, we've seen it time and time again of guys, able to win just based off of pit strategies, whether they take, 2 tires, no tires. I mean, what do you think is going to be the thing, Chris? I know you're well versed. You're a pretty good racer out there.
Well, we were talking fuel earlier in this race. It's just about 23 laps they can go. Oh, excuse me, about 27 if you're saving, if I did my math properly. So it's going to be interesting on when that will come from 57. So what would that be? Roughly around 30, actually. So, like I said, it'll be very interesting. If these guys come down earlier, you may not have to switch tires. If you can just top off on fuel, that'll save you about anywhere between a good 4 to 5 seconds on a stop, compared to whereas if you stay out later, you're going to have to put in more gas if you don't do your calculations to put in just enough to get you to the end of the stage, at which point any extra gas is just going to be extra time on pit road. And also if you choose to change tires, you're going to have older tires coming out of pit road, which again, you may be a little slower coming out of pit road getting back up to speed. So I would definitely think going short is the way to go.
100%. As we see the pace car starting to dip down pit road here gradually as these guys get across the front stretch. Definitely going to be interesting. Can't wait to see what these guys decide to do. My favorite style of racing is when the strategies come into it. When I'm a numbers guy.
And numbers, obviously going to be playing a really huge role in how Stage 2 will play out. So, it's in the hands of Corey Cook, and it is a very early launch for the 61 machine. We are back underway for stage number 2. Already, Brian Johnson, Al Kozlowski juking to the bottom side, and that is not something I expected for Corey Cook to be doing, going as early as he did.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a good idea, really, to jump here. I mean, Talladega, usually you don't want to go before the green flag waves. I think it really helped out David Phillips a lot, though, as that top line. I don't think they got the memo. They were a little bit sleeping there.
I didn't expect it. That was a trick pulled right out of the hat. Now, David Phillips was not able to run down Corey Cook in the battle for the lead. Well, he's able to run him down, but not go for the overtake. So already we're single filed out before we even hit turn 3, which is something very unlike what we were seeing in stages 1. Well, actually throughout all of stage 1.
Yes, I didn't expect it. I think maybe as a bit of the game, it looks like Justin Levine is going to be the last one in this pack. You got John Ballou. Looks like he's just in it. It's going to be a struggle here for, I just missed the number there, of JR and Kyle Debris. They may just be on the bubble here of being onto this lead pack. Looks like they have it here. Yeah, but they are just going to be able to latch onto the back of this lead group.
Yeah, I'm very surprised.
Last two of Clayton Hoffman and Paul Olson. If these guys don't get on it back here, they're going to have to hope for massive checkups from this lead group in order to get back up there.
Yeah, Josh R. Ward already pretty much out of this lead pack here, as we see Roy Hyde looking like he's wanting to go up there and challenge a little bit here, as we see this little 5-car group back here really separated from the main pack.
And by now they're well out of the draft as well. There's no way they're going to be able to work their way up now without some serious help. They're going to need a caution to get them back into contention here for a stage 2 finish. Now, stage 2 does not come to a close until lap 57, which is That's another 31 laps from now, so it is a significantly longer Stage 2 than Stage 1 was, and we were talking about this before. That's going to really open up the pit strategies, and you even heard guys like Justin Levine in the interview in Stage 1. They were talking about, what do you want to do? Oh, huge checkup in the middle of the leading pack. Wayne Grossi has to duck out of line, and Wachinski is now abandoned on the outside line.
Fortunately for him, it looks like all the frontline guys are going to take their run and look to the high side with them. It'll be interesting if they can get back in line here. If they can do it quick, it looks like they will not lose this main group. Again, you got the 36 there of Paul. I don't know if he was able to get any of those repairs done under the last caution. Remember, we were saying, we heard over the radio he was down a few RPM. So if these guys don't realize it quick and get around him, they may be the next ones at risk of falling off the lead group.
Well, here we go. We got to pretty much split up again here. Looks like these guys definitely losing the draft of that main pack. And interesting, you talked about Greg Wachinski out there. I mean, he's 2 laps down. We saw him kind of do, quit out for a second there. It seems like he came back. Curious how he fits into this whole puzzle.
You saw Paul Daniel move out of the way, and he even let them know again he's down on RPM. So he moved out of the way and gave it to him, realizes he's not doing anything except holding them up, doesn't want to hold them up, nearly gets into it, though, with Jeffrey Souza, I believe that was, as he went 3 wide around the outside line. So a bit of a hairy moment, but you can already see Paul Daniel dropping to the rear of the field. And it's a good thing he decided to do that, because when they were running right behind him, they were already 5 miles an hour slower than these guys up in front. But with them being side by side the way they are now, that's now increased to 10 miles an hour slower.
Yeah, not surprised to see this top line really starting to make some moves here. The 8, I do believe, of Heath Snyder leading that top line. They have a lot more cars than that bottom line in this second pack does.
Yeah, we were talking about teammates earlier tonight. You got all 4 of the frontline cars up there. You got the legacy car of John Ballou right behind them. 5 very good cars in line, as you see frontline all drop down. Now leading this second group, John does just get down in front of the 11, so we'll see if they can't pull up. It looks like they are going to make it happen, actually. So this second group, it looks like they are going to get back up to the leading pack.
And that is shocking. I mean, to see that actually be able to be possible. So that just shows how strong these race cars are, these frontline cars. I mean, they are clearly faster than about everybody out there, I do believe. And what do you think really attributes to that? What causes them to be so much faster? You think they have a little more tape on that car, or what?
Well, I was looking at them as they took to the high side initially coming around Greg. The 19 was really close up there to the 8 of Heath, and it looks like they were just about as close as you're going to get without touching if they weren't. And they were really making ground up on that high side. So again, I just think it's the chemistry of 2 drivers just racing around one another, knowing what the other one is going to do. As we come around, we hit lap 31 right here. These guys may be in the fuel window, maybe looking to go a couple laps longer here. Like I said, I believe it is 27, maybe the longest they can go, maybe 24 is the shortest. So you may see these guys come and just ride with this pack here for a couple more laps until they can get into the fuel window for the end of stage 2 here.
There's another checkup. Drumheller goes up top, and Levine is forced to follow. That's part of why the second group was able to catch up as well as they did. There's a lot of checking up going on in this pack, and I don't know what the deal with that is, but whatever is the case, it's been allowing these guys to reel themselves back in. Mulligan just went 3 wide and dropped 2 spots. Roy High still working the outside line. Here comes Littleton. Going to pick up another spot as well in the number 28 machine. So it's a bit hectic further towards the back, but they should be able to get themselves sorted out, especially if these checkups in the front of this field don't stop.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. We've seen a lot of these guys, haven't been up front lately, so they're not really tried and true and tested. I mean, of course, Levine and those guys were up front. They were able to have a lot of speed. I mean, like I said, these guys just have not been up here yet, so maybe some adjustments needed.
And again, a big part attributing to those checkups are just about everybody just trying to save fuel. It's just about the top 4, maybe 5 cars in a pack that are just about going to set the pace for everybody else. Everyone else is just sitting in the tow, as we see some people leaving slightly bigger gaps than others. We got the 77 of Jarrett Phillips leaving a very big gap to the 24 of Kenny Powell. So these guys are maybe just riding partial throttle. Others trying to take their runs and push the guy in front of them. And as you get that very slight miscommunication as that trend goes down all the way through the pack. You get big accordion effects to where it eventually gets to the point of where you get to the one guy who doesn't quite see it coming, and they're forced to go to the high side of all. As you see the 8 of Heath Snyder now, the frontline guys making a move to the outside. Going to see if they can get the second line going up here before pit stops.
Here comes Petrella trying to link up with them, as well as Kyle Labrie is with him. The legacy driver of Baloo decided to make this a 5-car pack. However, well, I thought they weren't going to make it work, but look at this. They just passed up Wayne Grossi along with Randy Drummuller. Now making the move on Paul Schmallenberg. How about Chad Sullivan? Looks like he might be under fire next. This train is actually working here, Brian.
Yeah, 100% it sure is. As we see, it looks like someone just dipped off of that train. So it is a 5-car pack here. But they are making a lot of moves. I think it's because of, like we've kind of discussed, about these guys checking up a lot and trying to save fuel.
It'll be interesting now as they get up closer towards the top 10 is when the checking up tends to usually stop. You see the 24 of Kenny Powell trying to go up to lead that train. Doesn't look like Heath's going to take any of it as 24 gets back down in line. The frontline boys are going to stay in line and keep their charge going towards the front. Now, as they do it now, they need to watch for the side draft of the inside cars. It is just about a good car's width to where you get anywhere close to another car. If they're behind you within that car's width, you're actually going to be slowing yourself down. So you see the 8 drift a little bit higher up into that second lane, trying to take their whole run away from the potential side draft of that inside line, as you see them work their way up down to almost 6th on the outside, up to 5th now. As you see Al Kozlowski try to move up to take that second line away. Again, Heath is going to deny that as they go 3 wide.
This is getting real close for comfort, and it's those checkups again. The inside line is not coordinated at all, and there's one car put into the wall further to the back of the field. It is Chad Sullivan dropping back like a stone, put Wachinski up into the outside walls. He tried to come up to block the run. No dice though for the 21 car, so we're going to keep with it here. That frontline train, though, is absolutely hauling. They are now up to 7th place, and trying to run down the top 6 now, but look at how disconjointed that inside line is as a result of all those checkups, and the frontline guys, they avoided all of it. Now they're up to 6th, making 5th place for Heath Schneider.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, that bottom line is just all kind of disorganized right now, and these guys are showing that if you can mount the charge up there, you can get it done, but you really have to have that bottom line be disorganized here, as I think a lot of these guys, just too many gaps down there, and wow, look at that. I mean, such a huge gap between the 4, I do believe, in the 50 right now.
Yeah, as you see, Heath has been coming up. He's very picky with choosing his battles of when he's coming down to side draft, and he's pulling away as he's all the way up now to the 88 of Craig Johnson, is that? Excuse me, the 83 of Craig Johnson now, as he's going to pull up the side draft. And you see Craig actually kind of come up himself to side draft him back, as these guys again are continuing their charge up to the front of the field.
Yeah, now the little bit of a gap here between 2nd and 3rd on the bottom line to 83 and to 89. I do believe that is David Phillips and, like you said, Craig Johnson. So that's really slowing these guys up a lot. And even a lot of these guys dipping down on the apron. I'd be a little worried if I was on that top line because there's no escape route if these guys, you know, maybe touch that apron, come up and just destroy you.
Then you don't need to have the escape route, though, if you're the guys that are leading this thing, and that's what these guys want to do. They're alongside with David Phillips II, trying to see if they can get past the Ferndale Radio number 89 Chevrolet. Heath Schneider still working that outside groove. He's got Jez Levine shoving him all the way up to the front. Petrella's in behind him. So is, of course, John Ballow and co. You also got Kozlowski and Connor Mulligan that have now joined up with the top group. And now, how about this? Heath Schneider side by side with Corey Cook coming around. Turn number 4. The 8 car is going to go to the lead.
And what classic Talladega racing this is. I mean, this is what you say. When you want to watch Talladega racing, this is it.
That is an absolute charge from all the frontline guys there. As you see, Heath's going to maintain the middle line there to bring as many of his guys as he can up there. And it looks like if the 61 doesn't move up to potentially side draft these guys and try and break them up, that they will all clear down into the bottom lane.
Labrie is going to go down, and that takes the entire front line train with them just like that. The outside lane is abandoned. It is now Kozlowski and Mulligan by themselves. John Ballou and the Legacy Esports machine somehow manages to clear in front for 5th. And just like that, the frontline grouping comes down a pit road and heads up to Ballou's in the middle of the field. And they're, Schneider overshoots and he's into the infield grass. That is going to be a penalty for the 8.
Wow, I mean, those guys waited for the exact right time to be able to go down there on pit road. As soon as they got clear, they literally dropped down. I mean, what a call there. I mean, no wonder those guys some of them maybe made a mistake there, considering how quickly they did that.
I'm not sure yet if anyone got an unsafe entry, or I don't know how John Ballou made it in. He just barely got himself cleared to the inside line and then come down. So these guys are opting to do the short pit, but they look pretty disorganized coming out. They're very spread out on the way out here, so this is going to cost some time. You're only as fast as your slowest driver coming off pit road here.
Oh, no,
and it looks like potentially only 4 of them are going to be able to link back up.
Oh, Petrella's still sitting in pit road as well in this box, so Petrella definitely has a penalty, and it wouldn't surprise if it was for speeding. He was going in way hot on the pit entry, so J.R. Petrella is serving a speeding penalty most likely. That puts Al Kozlowski up in the race for the time being, but of course, that 00 car still is yet to pit.
It was a very impressive charge from the frontline boys, so they did it once and would not be surprised if they could do it again, being how still everybody else still has to pit.
100%, but I mean, those guys not being linked up, I mean, that's just so key. I mean, if you're not able to, all have a good pit stop, could really affect everything. As we see a bunch of other guys starting to go down pit road here. Al Kozlowski leading them down. But Brian Johnson, big moves onto the pit entry here. He gains a lot of spots.
We got the 72 into the wall. 92, Clayton Hoffman into the grass. He missed pit road.
And the 7-2 car facing backwards in the pit lane now. That was a potential collision. Adil Schmallenberg, you mentioned, hit the wall. He just lost it under braking, and Hoffman just overshot about as bad as he possibly could on the pit road like this.
Yeah, the best thing Hoffman did for himself there is he did not clip the yellow cone coming in, so he did not get an unsafe entry. Unfortunately, that is going to be a lot of time lost.
About half a lap, I would anticipate, as he has to go all the way back around before linking back up. Now, Talladega, it's one of the most difficult pit roads to get on. It looks simple enough. You pull it down off of turn 4, you slow it down, but we're talking, you're slowing this car down from 200 miles an hour down to about 55, and all of that in the span of about 3 or 4 seconds, while you're trying to avoid everybody else that's coming down around you. And then you counter the fact as well that the brakes on these cars are cold because you never use them. So the brakes are not at the operating working temperature. It is a huge amount of stress on the cars, and Justin Levine and co., well, they have just passed Al Kozlowski for the net race lead.
And that's going to leave the 61 of Corey Cook, 89, 52 of Josh Wards, 89 David Phillips, and the 17 of Robert. They have not yet been the ones who pit yet. It looks like they are the only ones still to pit. But the interesting I'm seeing is the magic number tends to be, if once you come out of pit road, you want to see the leader roughly anywhere between 14 to 20 seconds behind you. If they're any closer than that, chances are you didn't get out of pit road as quickly as you could have, and you're at risk of being put a lap down here. So it's very interesting to see these guys still continuing out, perhaps trying to lap as many cars as they can before coming back down.
100%. A lot of these guys probably doing a lot of experimenting right now, considering, we still do have a stage break. So even if you mess it up a whole bunch, you still might have a chance to get back into this thing.
It's a pretty big if, though, especially when you have to consider you're definitely not going to be in it for stage points, but you need to make sure that you then that you stay on the lead lap. That is the next most critical thing. You need to stay on that lead lap as well. Otherwise, you're not going to go anywhere, and you're not going to be helping yourself either. So I mentioned Corey Cook, the race leader, along with David Phillips, Josh Ward, and Robert Pattengale. Those are the only drivers, along with Jeffrey Souza. And if you have to come on down to pit road, and Corey Cook looks like he might be wanting to get something sorted here. He wants to stay out in front, and I believe Cook's wanted to see if he can stretch this one out long and see if he can gain some time in clean air.
Now, all being said and done after the pit stops here, we got 3 of the frontline cars plus John Below all hooked up. They seem to be pretty organized now. They're working on catching the next pack in front of them, which seems to be 2 G&G drivers plus it looks to be Josh Schaffner there as well on the lead lap. Accompanying them is JR, who has fallen 1 lap down. We'll see if those guys all can't get organized and perhaps make up some time on that lead group. As we hear on the radio, the 61 of Corey Cook is going to be pitting in this next time by.
Yeah, I definitely agree that, Levine and them, I think that, those guys, they're running lap times really fast right now. I mean, 48.2 Levine's last lap. I think these guys, they're much faster than the guys in front. I mean, they still could even end up eking out a stage win here.
There's definitely the plus here for those guys on the front line. They would definitely like to go for 2 and you mentioned Justin Levine said he needs the stage points. He definitely is going to be wanting to get every single point that he can get by going back-to-back in the stages. So look back to Corey Cook, just exited turn number 4, and just like that, they are all coming down on the pit road all at the same time, and any of these guys overshoot. Zeus is also in the lane, and it looks like a relatively uneventful pit entry for your race leaders.
Well, they got the job done there. Now it's just about maintaining that pit road speed and getting the fastest stop they can done. A bit of a lockup there from David Phillips. It's still relatively good stops from these 3 here. We'll see where they come out compared to the frontline guys.
And speaking of the frontline guys, really getting interesting here as we see those guys starting to run down 7th on up. Guys are really getting close. I think we're going to see some battling before this thing's all said and done as about 11 laps to go in the stage.
Ooh, Joshua Ward with a very fast stop here. Perhaps taking no tires, only fuel there, but he is going to be out by himself here. Robert Pattengale even out farther than that. Robert has not pit yet.
Interesting call from Robert, for sure. I don't know if that's going to work out for him, though. I mean, I think that surprised he hasn't ran out of gas, to be honest with you. I think he's probably going to be forced to pit in the next couple laps.
So the current race leader is Josh Ward, but you mentioned how he's all by himself, and that gap is shrinking. It's already shrunk in just half a second in turns 2 and 4. You take a look at, if you were to actually look up at Josh Ward, and you're going to be looking back, and that's the guys right behind him that he's going to have to worry about.
Yeah, the next closest pack to him is being led by the number 4, Brian Johnson, and just off of their rear spoilers, you got Justin Levine, and the frontline guys coming right behind him, just getting past the 24, Kenny Powell.
Yeah, looking at Justin Levine and these guys right now, they are making massive headway right now, already up to 5th, and really starting to make some inroads here up to Brian Johnson's pack.
And Levine at the moment is the driver to beat, and those frontline guys, when they link up, boy, have they been fast tonight. And Josh Ward going to be passed up for the race lead by Brian Johnson, so Brian Johnson becomes the new race leader. And now this is not net race leaders, this is official race leaders. So Schaffner is in 3rd, Petrella in, well, not in 2nd, actually, it's a lap down. So Brian Johnson, the race leader. Robert Pattengale is in pit road this time by. They're catching Jeffrey Sousa as well. They're going to have to look around. They're going to be going around the outside line to take the number 14 car. And now Levine is just a little ways behind by about half a second. He is rapidly running them down. And now Kenny Powell has joined up with the frontline crew as well.
And just imagine how dominant these guys would be, Justin Levine, if they hadn't maybe had the, kind of a bad pit stop. I mean, they didn't have a, terrible one, but I mean, it could have been way better. A lot of their team members were not as quick as they should have been. And just imagine where they'd be now. I mean, I think they'd already be in the lead.
All being said and done, they still managed to come out in that lead group. It looks like you're going to have your first place position all the way back. The P8 is going to be making up this first pack. And then we got a second pack, which looks to be your P7 all the way to 13. And then you got Al Kozlowski in the 88 in 15th place leading a third pack here. Third pack is actually a little bit bigger than the second pack, so we'll see if those two can't group up and perhaps get themselves working together back to the lead pack.
Levine to the top. Labrie goes with them, so does John Ballard. Here's the block from J.R. Petrella. Going to go up to help his teammates, though, and get the run. They are going to breeze past Brian Johnson, and Josh Schaffner going to link up with the inside line. But the outside lane, we're talking about a 6v3 battle. You're outnumbered 2-1 on the outside line. That outside line is going to win every single time.
Yeah, what a move for JR there to do that, that 42, considering, he's a lap down, I do believe. Well, actually, I think he'll be on the lead lap now. But, yeah, kind of wild to see him pull that kind of move. Curious how that's helping out Justin Levine. I mean, maybe
Gives
with
the draft.
Yeah, the draft.
And Justin is absolutely using the chrome horn on the 42 as they come to take lap 51. Only 7 to go now in this stage.
Yeah, and such a run they just had. I mean, it looked like they were almost splitting from Kyle Labrie there for a second.
It looks like the game plan is going to be to keep their teammate of JR on the lead lap here. It looks like perhaps when they came down the pit, JR was the one intended to lead. He may be taped up to pull Levine around. Looks like they're going to work together here to keep him on the lead lap, which would be huge for them.
Yeah, it's going to work out really good for this team. I mean, JR is going to be on the lead lap. And like you said, I mean, that is something that we see all the time with that, because the guy that's designated as the leader puts on a ton more tape. As we see some moves here, it looks like Kyle Labrie going down to the bottom. I think that maybe they were trying to undercut these guys, but it didn't seem to pan out.
Because they moved down to the inside line, that left Kenny Powell out to dry. He went from being in 5th place all the way back down to outside the top 5. So Powell now at the back of this train. Petrello leads the train, but it is Levine who leads the race in the number 19 car. And it is presently a frontline 1-2 with Legacy able to pick up a 3rd place.
Yeah, another just about 5-second gap back now to that second pack, as it looks like the third pack is just about 2 seconds off of them as those two are looking to come together. But as the action closes here, it looks like it is just going to be an 8-car battle for the end of stage 2, with just 2 cars battling now back in the second pack for those last 2 stage points.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at Justin Levine's, pretty much his whole team and everybody in this top pack, I mean, they're running such quicker times than all these other packs. I mean, crazy to see, how better their cars are. I mean, I just wonder if it's, just prowess with driving or knowing how to take these runs and where to push. And, like you said, the air bubble, I mean, it just seems like they're just much faster. And that equates so much here at Talladega. I don't think we're going to be able to hold these guys back all night.
Absolutely. We're seeing 48 3s, 48 4s coming from that lead group. As we go to the second group, we're seeing 48 9s, 48 7s from the third group.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
Definitely the chemistry of knowing what other drivers around you are capable of and what they're going to do. It is the biggest thing is when you're running single file like this is to keep your car exactly in the tire tracks of the car in front. The more you do that, the more you optimize that push of that air bubble to get that car further away from you, and the more speed that you're going to make up in the process of that.
Yeah, I think it really all comes down to trust. Like you kind of said, the chemistry of the guys around you. You know what this guy's capable of.
3 laps to go.
Around.
So 3 to go in stage number 2. It is currently Levine, Labrie, Ballou, Schneider, and Johnson. As Brian Johnson to round out the top 5. Shout out, by the way, to John Ballou. Started 28th place. Didn't set a practice lap or a qualifying lap. He is up to the 3rd position. Most spots gained on the day by far, plus 25 on the day. And at some tracks, it's a bit of a bigger feat than others. But honestly, considering the drafting package and how crucial teamwork is, I think that makes it even more impressive at Talladega.
100%. I mean, you've seen how hard it is to pass here anyway. To be able to make that many positions up, I mean, definitely very impressive.
Definitely now as they come to 2 to go. I believe pit road is closed this time by. You don't see anybody else trying to take it again this time for the end of stage 2. It looks again like it's just going to be this front line. We'll see if we have any late moves for the lead here. I don't think we will, because Justin Levine, your stage winner for stage 1, I believe he's the one looking for the playoff points for frontline, so perhaps his teammates will be fortunate enough to let him out there to keep that bonus. I'm not sure if we get a bonus playoff point for winning a stage. If not, but if we do that, it would be critical for him.
I don't think you get a bonus point for winning a stage. I know that if you get a race win, that automatically locks you into the next round. So that is no doubt what Levine's next objective is going to be as we take that white flag for stage 2.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you guys are saying this is going to be kind of an uneventful stage finish, but I don't agree. I feel like, I mean, just looking at that first stage to this one, I mean, I think that a lot of that same thing's going to happen. I think some guys are going to be making some moves here.
It's worth noting as well that the caution comes out once 10th place crosses the line. So even after these guys get themselves across the line, you have to wait a few more seconds and all the way back for Wayne Grossi to cross the line. And there's a battle back there as well for positions. Brian Littleton just worked his way up into the points there, and that'll be big for him. But meanwhile, off a turn, number 4, Justin Levine coming around the tri-oval. Will he take it? No, maybe not. Here comes LeBree trying to make it for a photo finish, but can't get there. Justin Levine takes 2 for 2 in stage number 2. Brian Littleton trying to out-drag Wayne Grossi and gets him at the stripe.
Wow, look at that. I mean, the very interesting racing out there. Brian Littleton able to get 9th like that. What a job from him.
Yeah, had help from the number 13 of Roy Hyde, able to help him get that done. The end of stage 1. I think we have a little bit of a longer stage now heading into stage 3, so we'll see if the strategy doesn't get switched up a little bit. These guys try and go a little bit longer.
One can only imagine. Stage 3 is going to be around the same length that stage 2 was, so I would reckon more of the same is what we can expect. Under caution, once again for the 3rd time tonight, it's time for stage number 2. We'll take a quick step away, and we'll be back with stage 3 and the remainder of the race in just a moment. Yellow flag pit stops underway as we get set to get the stage 3 in the Rock Auto 250 back underway here in just a few moments. It is going to be Justin Levine, stage 2 winner, leading the field down. A couple guys lap down are staying out, but apart from that, every single driver is coming in.
Again, so critical here not to slide through your box. Don't want to lose any time, or perhaps because of all the frontline guys, maybe they might play some games, wait on some guys to come through here to opt to try and get a position on the inside line here, as it looks like some may only be taking fuel. Looks like John Blue is already out. I'm not sure if he took any tires or not.
Yeah, very interesting call there from him, and kind of interesting how this is going to play out, because I know on that last stage we kind of saw Levine and those guys start from the back of the pack. Doesn't seem like they're going to be taking that same strategy this go round.
It did look like 2 in fuel from a lot of the frontline guys, so it looks like they are going to hold that position up there towards the top.
Now, one thing I find interesting is on the stage 1 caution, the strategy was for them to fall back to the tail end of the grid and work their way back up to the front. I wonder if it'll be a rinse and repeat for stage number 3.
Yeah, they could very well go down again. I mean, could very well happen. We saw them, go down a second time that last stage.
I wouldn't put it past them to see if they can't do the best they could for JR. Like you said, we saw them make a charge early on in stage 2. Who says they can't do it again?
That is very true. They had a heck of a comeback, all things considered. They got trapped in a second pack, and they somehow got that second pack formed up while the front was still, checking up and walking over each other. And they managed to come through, take the lead. They had some serious botched pit stops when they came down pit road, and they still managed to fight back and retake the race lead. I mean, those frontline cars have just been unstoppable today.
Very strong.
And I just noticed something a little bit here. I was looking at Levine's car, John Balu. I mean, a lot of these cars that are up front here, looks like their rear ends are raised up a little bit. And I'm looking throughout the, a little bit back further in the field, and a lot of those guys are more flat to the ground. I wonder if that's giving these guys some of the advantage.
Definitely a lot of ways to get these things set up to do very similar things. It's all about getting the car to cut through the air the best way you can, and it depends on if you want to set it up to be out front or if you want to set it up to be a pusher, or do you want to set it up to be in the pack with everybody. It's a whole lot of different situations that you got to plan around, and it seems to be like the frontline guys have, again, I'm going to go back to the word chemistry of working with each other when it comes to setups and driving and everything.
100%. I mean, a lot of these guys probably spend a lot of time in a lot of Talladega sessions, test sessions, and whatnot, trying to figure out what they're going to do here. And we see, of course, Levine and those guys once again going down pit road. So it looks like same thing as stage one, and it seemed to work for them. So why not do it again?
Hey, if it works one time, you don't break or you don't fix what isn't broken. So it could very well work out again. Now, of course, I want to say they got a little bit lucky, because had that first train been a bit more organized, I doubt they would have been able to catch up to them. That's one of the reasons why they caught up to them so quickly, was because they ended up, kind of trapped in, or the front line at least, they ended up trapped in that situation where you're constantly in a cycle of checking up and getting back together, only to check up again. And Frontline never had a problem with that. So that's one thing I'm very curious to see how this is going to play out.
Very interesting also to see the 92 of Clayton Hoffman. He missed pit road his first time around. It looks like he managed to stay on the lead lap. He's going to be restarting 13th here. I believe this is actually going to be the closest up in the field that he is restarting himself on the past two restarts that we've had. The last time he got hung out towards the end of the field, wasn't really able to get anything going towards the front. So we'll see if he can't change his story in the start of the most important stage here.
Yeah, shocking we haven't really talked a whole lot about Clayton Hoffman tonight. I mean, usually he's one that is always kind of in the mentions.
So John Ballo, the current race leader, he's got Corey Cook to his outside, Schaffner in third, David Phillips the second in fourth, Roy Hyde and Brian Littleton fifth and sixth on the grid. Pace car pulls down to pit road and gets set to go racing for the final the final 30 or so laps. It's a shorter stage under green than stage two was. What will this mean for the pit strategies? There's only one thing to do, but that is to wait and to see. Pace car is down. We are back underway from Talladega. Already, Josh Ward has a penalty. He is looking to serve that under caution, but what a jump for the outside lane as Corey Cook gets set to see if he can pull ahead early on.
Yeah, we haven't even seen this outside line be able to really do this as of yet, but it looks like it's starting to work here as Corey Cook has a lot of help from behind here. The 89 of David Phillips to second, really lay it into his back bumper, but now the bottom line really starting to get organized here.
Once again, now we're seeing the jockeying for positions. It looks like the number 4, Brian Johnson, falling back. He's going to be able to find his way back in line. I see only 3 cars now on the high side, just as we say that, with the 19 Justin Levine already looking towards the high side, towards the back of the pack, looking to start the charge early.
Yeah, kind of like what you mentioned before, about how these guys, not having the benefit of the pack up there, maybe not being as disorganized. So I think Justin and them, they know they have to start early, and they're already starting early, getting a big run up here, trying to catch up to Brian Littleton. And we've seen those guys not really willing to work with a lot of people as they go 3 wide. Kind of figured that was coming.
Very interesting, because they have teammates leading this whole pack, so if they can't set the pace to perhaps even be saving fuel and not going 100% throttle towards the towards the front end of this pack, maybe making it that much more easier potentially for these guys to get back up here.
So a little bit of side-by-side action further in the tail end of the field, but that's just drivers trying to get themselves sorted out. I know among them is Kyle Labrie, surprisingly. I'm surprised to see the 9 car so far back. I thought he would be one of those guys who would be looking to go to the front, but of course he is trying to link up with Heath Schneider and Justin Levine. They're already running that top side, trying to see if they can have another go at it. And you saw how well this worked the first time. Of course, they had a 5-car train. One can only hope to see that maybe, just maybe, they can make that lane work again.
Yeah, that's one thing I was kind of thinking too, is they don't have as many cars right now, so I think that they might not have the same exact speed that they had before. So I don't know. I think it's kind of against them right now.
Yeah, towards the back of the pack, looks like we have 4 of the front line guys in line here. It's going to be questionable. They're still trying to get past the 28 of Brian Littleton. Let's see if they can't start. Again, once these cars get up to speed and those cars up towards the front of this line here, second and third, perhaps if there's temperatures start to go, that's when we'll start to see the checkups happening. And we'll see. It doesn't look like the frontline guys have any intentions of dropping down to this inside lane. So again, it looks like they're going to try and take that second line up if they can.
So frontline looking to open up the outside lane once more, and they've got Brian Littleton now coming up to see if they can give him a little bit of a hand. So 5-car train, we saw how well this worked the last time. I think they're hoping the inside line will be a bit more disconjointed, though, unlike how it was. Well, kind of like how it was in Stage 2, but so far it's been a lot more organized this time around. And you can already see, while they're making some progress, they are struggling just a little bit to make as much ground as they did before.
Yeah, it would have been nice if Littleton actually had helped them out, but it looks like he kind of used him as a tool to get back to this lead pack. But it looks like, yeah, they're just still 4 cars, and it doesn't look like they're making up any ground right now.
Definitely holding steady. We'll have to keep our eye on that as we seem to be pretty calm here at the beginning of Stage 3. Everybody else pretty single filed out, saving as much fuel as he can. Again, saving as much fuel, so the more fuel you can save right now, perhaps the shorter your pit stop will be.
I don't know. We're kind of looking back at this once again. They are starting to make up some ground now. It looks like they're getting organized as they're making up a couple positions here. Right now, I do believe they're up to, looks like Randy Drumhiller, getting by him now. And it looks like Littleton maybe deciding to go back up there, get back in line. He's like, oh, I see something successful. I'm going to try to latch onto this.
Heath Schneider going to be looking to see if he can push Levine to the front. Now, that side draft they're doing with Corey Cook has caused them to lose the draft up to the leading pack. Corey Cook in a very bad way right now. Thanks to the frontline crew, might not be feeling the most of happiest of campers up there. There's a couple guys further in the rear of this train that are looking to maybe follow. I'm watching Jarrett Phillips, who's looking to maybe get in on the action as well to make it a 6-car train. He just got past Brian Johnson, trying to link up for the draft of Brian Littleton. So you got a lot of the guys further in the back here that are trying to make these moves, and they're trying to, I think, link up with the frontline crew. They saw how much it worked the first time, and, well, look at this. It is clearly working the second time.
100%. I think it was just all really was about them getting organized and actually getting guys to look up there and be like, wait, this could work. Let me get for those guys. Latch on. But look at that. Even now they're just 4 cars. Can they maintain this momentum?
Al Kozlowski comes up. Levine's not going to have it, though. Neither is Al. A huge block for the 0-0 all over the track. Wave to the left, wave to the right, and just neutralizes the run that the second line has. That was an extremely risky move, but Al tried to block the run the first time round, and he was not about to let it be blocked the second time round. Al wants to be pushed to the front.
We'll see now how long they'll put it up with. It looks like Al was able to assert his dominance enough.
Contact!
Oh, there they go.
This is a big one. This is the big one.
That was inevitable with how hard they were racing there, and a block gone bad potentially. I know Kenny Powell, he tried to come up, and I think there was a small checkup. I know Al was nudged to the inside line. Might have been given a bad push, though, from Justin Levine that caused this one. Levine, I think, escaped just barely around the outside line. I know for a fact Kyle Labrie, someone escaped around the outside line. I want to look at this from the 9 car if we can, because good gravy. The 9 car had the scare of his life being caught in the middle of this one. Keith Schneider, though, has a lot of damage on his front end. So unfortunately, collision between the two GNG teammates, potential from a bad bump from Levine. That's going to cause the big one, and a lot of cars are damaged now.
It did look like just the 9 of the front line did just barely get through that. I'm not sure if that 92 of Clayton Hoffman was able to sneak his way through. It looks like he might have gotten a small piece. No, the 92 looks to have snuck his way through there.
Amazing driving from Labrie to read that situation. Cat cars were shooting up for the wall, but he knew they were going to hit the guys up there first, and he shot for the outside. He committed to it, and it worked. So
yeah, I believe we saw Al Kozlowski the last time in Stage 2. He tried to move up against them and didn't quite commit to it. This time here, you see him commit to it, and he just gets a push from...
It was Levine.
Was it Levine? It was Levine. It didn't look, just didn't look like a square bump exactly, and it just started a whole chain reaction of events.
Yeah, I think that was the quintessential big one there for sure, and a lot of damaged cars out there. I was looking a little bit at Kenny Powell got a big chunk of damage there, and I know he really needs all the points he can get, so that is going to be unfortunate for him.
And I'm going to be honest, I think the bump that we saw there was a result of angry driving, I think, from Justin Levine. And I can tell you right now where all of that anger came from. It came from the big block that Al pulled on the back straightaway. The typical rule is you can go for the one move on the straightaway, but weave it back and forth across the track, especially when the guy's got a big run. Is it the smartest or the coolest idea to go for? And Al made that one big block up high, and that was a bit questionable as it was. But then, of course, he then moved back down to the low side, which is not a smart idea when the guy's behind him have a huge head of steam. Not to mention being pushed by 5-6 other cars behind him. I think it was just an angry bump for Levine. Wasn't a square hit. He kind of shows like, all right, you want to play that game? Let's play around a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I can't blame him for going up, and again, I can't blame Levine for pushing through because they know their game plan was working. Al was just trying to, again, run his race and go along with it and see if he couldn't be the one to benefit from that. Fortunately enough, it's like you say, block me once, block me twice. They ain't going to block me thrice.
For sure. And you know, one thing that really affects this race now is because of that well-timed caution, I don't think gas is really going to be a concern anymore. So I don't think we're done with the wrecking. I think now the intensity is going to be rising.
That's true. We're only 24 laps away. 26 laps. Sorry, we're going to be 25 laps away this next time by. It's probably going to be about 24 or so when we take the green flag. You can make it to the end on that.
It would be very interesting for the cars that are running out front, see if they don't happen to drop down, see if we get anyone to drop down with 2 to go here to top off their tank. But yeah, I think it'll be close for anyone who's choosing to run out front here. So again, that'll make it very interesting towards the closing ends of these laps. When do you go and make your move now?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of these guys are probably going to be emboldened in a lot of ways, considering they don't have to be as concerned about that. So I think the racing is going to increase in intensity for sure. And, you know, you never know. Like you said, that guy out in front that doesn't have that, you know, that air, you know, that draft to really benefit off of and save fuel, he might be the one that doesn't make it. So that is a good point.
Well, this has certainly split up the running order a lot. It appears like John Ballew, out of all that, he'll take the race lead. Josh Schofter is second, Grossi third. Labrie, after surviving the wreck, is going to be in fourth, but he has no frontline teammates anywhere close to him to help him out. You got Roy Hyde in fifth, Brian Johnson is in sixth, Schmallenberg seventh, and Hoffman is going to work his way up to the eighth position. Levine, he was involved in the wreck. He's still in ninth. Chris Johnson's in 10th, and there's only about 17 cars total that are still up with this field. Everybody else still trying to rip around and see if they can catch up to the main portion of the field.
And you mentioned Levine being involved in that wreck. Well, looking at the front of his race car, he doesn't look like he sustained heavy damage, so he might not be out of the rear.
Like, he got hit up the rear hard.
Oh yeah. Well, he still could be in this thing. You never know. The spoiler seems to be straight.
It's definitely going to add a tidbit more drag to the car. He's definitely going to need a car behind in order to have to generate the same amount of run that he had before. But fortunately, he's got a lot of cars behind him on the lead lap, so he should not drop too far.
So lights are on the pace car. We're on lap 72 now. That means we'll have 22 laps remaining when we take the green flag here. So you can make it to the end on fuel. This is going to be a straight shot to the end, and I can imagine... I kind of agree with you, Brian. We're not out of the woods yet.
100%. I feel like these guys are going to be as aggressive as ever. And, you know, I mean, this is for the win. I mean, this is Talladega. A lot of times you feel like, you know, oh, man, I can't win at all these other racetracks. A lot of these guys, oh, they have better setups than me. This is the track that really equalizes all. Anybody that is still on the lead lap right now that does not have heavy damage, I think they could easily win this race.
And don't count out those guys, the G&G guys. You got 3 of them lined up on the outside line there, starting in 6th, 8th, and 10th respectively. You got Brian Johnson, Clayton Hoffman, and Chris Johnson. So we'll see if they can't get organized on the outside, maybe do a little bit of frontline shenanigans themselves.
100%. As, you know, we see these guys getting ready to go back green. I mean, I kind of mentioned it earlier in the broadcast about really when the big one happens, who in your team is still left? Well, I think that's what a lot of these guys are asking each other right now.
Pace car's off. John Ballou is going to be your control car. Coming around through the tri-oval. He will wait for the iRacing green. Green flag drops. We are underway. Labrio's towards him out of shape on the restart. Nearly turns Josh Joffre and checks up the entire outside line.
As we see 48 of Chris Johnson, the first one to get down in line there, see if he doesn't create a hole for his teammates here. Looks like he will. Everybody else is going to be very quick to single file out.
Kind of concerned. I'm looking at Paul Smallberg in 4th right now. A lot of front-end damage on that race car. You can see part of that hood is kind of bent up a little bit there. Curious how fast he'll be in clean air. Could be something that slows down this bottom line also.
A clean restart, though, all things considered. There was a bit of a twitch that we saw from Kyle Labrie, but because of that, he followed a little further down the order, but that has also allowed him to link up with his frontline teammate of Justin Levine, who we mentioned is in need of a good points run. He is by no means safe. In fact, he's only got 7 points back to the playoff cut line, currently being held by Brian Johnson. So Justin Levine definitely needs a good points finish tonight, and so far, he is still being set to get that good points finish, which is good considering he was just collected to the big one with about 20 to go.
Yeah, and luckily that damage he sustained was the rear end damage. It doesn't look like, as long as he keeps a car behind him here, that he'll have plenty of pace to maintain up here with the lead group.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's okay right now, but like you said, as soon as he tries to get in clean airs, we see a little bit of a accordion effect here as Wayne Grossi looking to maybe go on the high side, but no one willing to really go with him there.
It's interesting, you got leading this pack John Ballou, who was working with the frontline guys before. A little further back, you have Kyle Labrie and Justin Levine together. Then just behind them, you have the 89 David Phillips. Then you got 4 G&G cars all in line together. I think the biggest thing for them is who's going to get together first. As G&G decide to take a look to the outside and come to the front, or are they going to let the frontline guys get back together again?
Yeah, speaking of the frontline guys, we see a little bit of a separate pack forming back here, about 13th place. Heath Snyder leading that pack here, the 8 car. And it looks like they're trying to work to get back closer there, but it looks like they just don't have the pace right now, and it could be because of that incident.
Don't count out that number 7 Wayne Garassi. He did have the fastest lap time in practice as well. The only one to hit a 47, so he's definitely got some pace running P2.
That he does, and he's been decently quick all day long. Rossi's one of those drivers who we have been seeing getting better and better so far as the season has gone along. He's just trying to link up now, I think, with John Bowden. I think he's trying to bide his time here. He knows he's got a long way to go yet, so he's just going to want to play this one nice and patient and see if maybe he could go for the lead potentially in the closing stages. But I think the bigger question he's looking for at the moment is, will everybody else be as patient behind him?
Yeah, if I was him, I would be trying to talk to some of those guys behind me and be like, hey, you want to be friends? I guess friends are going to be really good to have at the end of this thing.
Not hearing any chatter on the radio and sorts of fuel, so everybody did pit in who's running up front here at lap 70. It puts them right on the bubble there of 24 laps to get to the end of this stage and the end of the race. So we'll see if these guys out front, if they don't have to, if they notice that they're not going to make it early, perhaps split this stage and gather themselves up with teammates, or run it all out until hoping for perhaps even a late caution to give it a little extra splash. I believe if we just get one caution, everybody who's running up front here will definitely be good on fuel.
See, I feel like they will be good on fuel. I mean, considering, like, you know, Nolan kind of said, they went green with 22, so, you know, a couple of those 24 laps were under caution. So I feel like that might bridge that gap.
And the fuel one we were looking at was around 26 laps or so when you're running by yourself as well. So you're almost basically guaranteed to make it to the end if you came in for a full tank under that last pit stop. I think the question is now, when do you want to actually go and, you know, use up what you got left in the tank? I mean, because of all the checks that we've been seeing further down in the order, it's only a top 10 grouping so far that's running up at the head of this field. And from there, you got the 2-car train by Johnson and Cook, and then another 4-car pack from there, and everybody else is just disconjointed. So the biggest pack is the 10-car train at the moment that we've got running up in front leading this thing.
Yeah, and that kind of takes away a lot of the options for you know, kind of a crazy wild finish. I think we'll still see it, but I mean, you know, there's not as many cars up there to really, you know, complicate things. So I think that these guys will they might finish under green.
Yeah, like you said, everybody here, it is the exact top 10 leading this first pack here. So everybody here is guaranteed points. It's just a matter of how greedy do you want to get as you see the number 4, Brian Johnson, now peeking his head to the outside and see if we can't get a second lane going here. That was the front line guys peek up themselves in response.
Yeah, it looks like this top lane really going to get going here, as it looks like a lot of guys committing to it. I think there has been some chatter over the radio.
And Labrie and Levine.
Sorry, I was just going to say, would not surprise me if these guys can't get this second lane going, if John Ballou wouldn't peek his head up, but it looks like they actually are just going to fall back in line here.
Yeah, they couldn't get linked up enough. If they could get, you know, nose to tail like all the frontline guys were earlier on, they might have been able to do something more, but if you're all kind of split apart into your own little gaps like that, you're not going to do yourself any good. You can get the 2 cars that can be running nose to tail, but you need more than that.
It seems like they had the numbers willing to do it. It's just like you said, they're just not organized enough. I feel like they really could do it. I just think that really need to take the runs at the same time, like you kind of said earlier, Chris, about how you have to take that run at the exact same time.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We'll see now that the number of cars that you have to work with is limited. We'll see. I was able to see in testing myself, if you get out in front, if you're able to lift as the lead car and let that second car hook up to you, you are able to run a little bit faster. But again, it's all about working with somebody who you're familiar with to get that outside line going, because we did see on both those charges from the frontline guys, those top 2 cars were very hooked up at the whole entire run as they made that outside line work.
100%, and a lot of people don't understand too that you don't push the pusher. So if that guy that's up in the lead kind of drags that brake and the guy, you know, you trust the guy behind him, who knows if you can trust the guy behind him, you know?
Yeah, you're constantly all over the place, you know, trying to get yourself sorted out, and usually it doesn't end up necessarily for the better. It's usually a very tricky thing that you got to try to manage throughout all of this. You got to not just consider what you're doing, you have to consider what everybody else around you is doing as well, and it usually makes for a rather messy combination, and we already saw how that, you know, played out earlier on in the race. We just have to wait to see how it'll finish out.
100%. Playing chess at 200 mile an hour definitely does not usually go, you know, clean and pretty. It's definitely usually pretty sloppy, but you know, John Ballou looking very strong right now. I think he has every chance to be able to win this thing, but I mean, it just all depends on. He's not gonna. Is he gonna have friends on lap? You know, 1 lap to go. That's when really things I think are gonna start breaking crazy here. We see a little bit of lap traffic.
Yeah, you got the 11 car there of Connor McCullough coming around. As they hit the stripe, I believe it's going to be 12 to go here. So again, no chatter. I think they are going to be good on fuel as they come around. Wayne Grassi's still pushing. These guys got a pretty good pace. They are a little bit slower than what they were before. They're only doing 48.5, so we're doing 48.3s. So definitely the pace has slowed down with not having as many cars being able to push.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times when we were seeing those 48.3s and stuff, it was with the frontline gang, and they were all really working together. Like, I mean, everybody in this top 10 right now, not a lot of them really have any affiliation with one another. As we see Justin Levine trying to get that second lane going once again.
I think it's very interesting that Levine came up there and number 9, Kyle Labrie, opted to stay on the bottom line. Perhaps if he can get to the rear end of this pack, that is, just as important as the second car is in line. Whoever that last car is in line to keep the pack as tight as possible is also extremely critical to the amount of run and speed you're able to generate. Again, it looks like that line is just going to stall out.
Yeah, I think that might have something to do with Levine's damage, too. I mean, he might not be the best one to lead that pack.
Well, he is damaged, it's worth noting, so that's going to make it that much harder. Any little scrap of damage is going to be definitely enough for you to be able to fall further back throughout the field, and every little dent in the car makes it that much harder to punch a hole through the air. And it's not just, the bumper damage that he's struggling with, which doesn't play as much of a role. It's more the front left damage I think is a bit more concerned about. The front left quarter panel a little bit crinkled in, and that's what he's having to worry about. I know Kyle Labrie is linked up at the moment with David Phillips II, trying to push the 8 and 9 car a little bit. One can only see.
It looks like the Chris Johnson is in danger here of losing the pack. He just lifted off just a bit too much, and yes, he did indeed lose that pack.
Yeah, being all by yourself, not having that second car maybe to help you out to get back up there, he is definitely in a downward spiral. And if Josh Schaffner, I do believe he's kind of working with Heath Snyder right now, so I think that maybe eventually these guys could even pass him. Yeah, they're coming up pretty quick. When you're by yourself out there, I mean, it's seconds that you lose.
Oh, yeah. I mean, especially if you're by yourself, I mean, you're going to be running at least 2 seconds a lap slower compared to, somebody else that might have just lifted off a little bit more, or even is running at the tail of the draft. It's never a good feeling when you know for sure that you've lost the pack. And, Chris Johnson definitely has lost it. He's about to be swallowed up here, actually, by the second grouping. Just 4 cars from 11th on back to 14th. But if he can't get the throttle down, he's probably going to end up being overtaken by these guys, too. And he's not even going to be able to link with them, and he'll be dropping even further back.
Yeah, just looking at the speed differences they were approaching, it was well over 15 miles an hour. So hopefully he's able to get onto the rear end of them.
Yeah, but they have so much
looks like he's going to be at risk.
Yeah, they have so much more momentum that I just don't think it's possible. I think he's going to fall right off of this pack also. That is just unfortunate. And that also limits this front pack, because they missed that 10 car now, that 10th car. So now they're even more limited trying to get a run going on the top.
So far, John Ballou in the Legacy Esports machine has definitely been, doing good work out there. He's been trying to see if he can maintain the race lead. To see Levine looking out again, trying to go for position just in behind, but that run doesn't go anywhere. I wonder when Wayne Grassi's going to make his move. That Pennzoil number 7 has been absolutely on fire so far. He's been slowly working his way up through the order. Started 14th. He's been running second so far since the drop of this green flag. So you'll wonder how long it'll be before he decides to make the move for the lead. I would imagine, though, on the white flag lap.
Yeah, I think so, too, for sure. I think the white flag lap probably going to be when he makes his move. I think it's all going to depend on who goes with him, though. I mean, Roy Hyde, is he going to stay on the bottom? Is he going to try to get second, away from Wayne? If nobody goes with Wayne, then he's just going to drop like a stone.
Yeah, Roy Hyde himself up 24 positions from his starting spot. So would not be surprised if he does decide to go with Wayne in those closing laps.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it a little bit more worth it considering, there's only 9 cars in this lead pack. If you go for it on the white flag, really won't hurt you very much. Would be one thing if there were 30 cars in this pack right now.
I think Josh Ward might have just called that he's pitting. That would be a bit of an interesting one if he has to come on down to pit road. Is that going to be the case? It is. Josh Ward coming to pit road. Can't make it to the end.
Wow. That is crazy to hear that. I mean, that kind of puts in question this whole front pack.
Yeah, wasn't too sure on where Josh was running during that whole last run there. Because if you're running by yourself, you're going to burn a bit more fuel than if you're running with a pack. So I don't know. I couldn't say one way or the other whether these guys are good. Especially John Blue's been out front for this entire run here.
Yeah, that's kind of the person in question. I kind of think that may not make it. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, even though he isn't, he is, in clean air and probably, not as good at fuel economy, it has to be somewhat better than being by yourself.
Oh, absolutely. If you're both holding the throttle down, one is getting around the track a little bit quicker than the other. So that is the benefit that John has working towards his favor right now. As they come around this time by, it's going to be 4 to go.
4 laps remaining. Baloo still leads. Wayne Grossi still biding his time. And I imagine everybody is going to want a piece of that race lead as soon as that white flag drops. And this race is made official. Now, John Baloo has still been running completely green so far. Grossi making a little bit of a look right there. Roy Hyde thought about following. So already they're starting to show their hands a little bit here, maybe kind of making those little looks in the mirror. I have a feeling, though, the move is going to come out of turn 4, entering the trioval.
I definitely think we've been witnessing the calm before the storm here, because any incident that happens before the white flag, then we're going to have to throw a caution. People are going to have to come down, refuel. But as soon as we hit that white flag, the next flag ends the race. So as soon as we hit that white flag, I'm assuming we're going to be seeing gloves off here.
100%. I think gloves are definitely going to come off. I think a lot of guys are going to make a move, maybe even willing to use the chrome horn a little bit, considering the consequences are not as bad. I'm curious what's going to happen here. I mean, I think some of these guys a little bit further back, in this 9-car field, if they want to make a run happen, they have to really start now. I mean, yeah, the guys that are in like 2nd, 3rd, 4th, maybe wait till that last lap. But some of these other guys really need to start making that momentum now.
It'll be 2 to go this next time by. And Baloo is going to be looking a little bit more nervous with each passing lap. If he finds himself stuck all the way in the front here, it's honestly the one place you don't want to be when you're coming around to the checker flag, because you are so vulnerable to an attack from behind, and when the move comes, there's almost nothing you can do to stop it.
See Kyle Labrie there. He's lifting off a little bit. He may be testing his run.
That's it off with David Phillips in second as well.
And that's something you kind of see a lot of times, is a lot of guys kind of back off before they start to do their run. Because, I mean, considering they want to have as much momentum as they possibly can before they step out.
Coming around 3 and 4. It'll be 1 to go this time by at the line. If they make it back to the white flag, race is official. No matter what happens, they will not catch any more lap traffic. It is just themselves and the racetrack that they got to contend with through the trioval for the second to last time today.
And here we go. This is when it becomes crazy and wild. Curious to see what is going to happen here. I mean, is anybody going to step out in 4? I just don't know. I mean, it's just been so hard to get a run together, especially when you have limited race cars.
Well, you take the eyes off the fuel gauge, put the eyes in the mirror. Which way is he going to go? See John protecting the high side. Will Wayne peek down into the inside? It looks like he does. John shuts him off. As they head into turn 3, that's going to hold up the run, check them up a bit as you see the frontline guys again step off a bit.
Grossi's looking restless out of turn 4. The move's got to be here. The move's going to be here. Wayne Grossi goes to the top side. Baloo tries to cover. Roy Hyde's going to keep with the number 6 Alexis Machine of John Baloo, and that'll be enough. John Baloo with the shove from Roy Hyde is going to win the Rock Auto 250 from Talladega Super Speedway while they're 3 wide across the line behind him.
And I'll tell you what, I think that John Baloo might owe Roy Hyde a beer for staying with him. He could have easily went there with Wayne Grossi and just did not. And, wow, what a finish.
That push made the difference. Without that shove from Roy Hyde, this race is Grassi's to lose.
And look at this. Grassi right behind Roy Hyde, a little bit under, after the race end, giving him a little bit of a nudge, maybe not appreciating that he did not go with him.
Well, at the end of the day, they're not teammates. They don't have to work together. Roy Hyde can choose who he wants to race with.
I mean, I'm in second, you're not. That's what I think Roy's saying.
Right? Well, race is concluded then for the Rock Auto 250 from the Talladega Super Speedway. Let's take a rundown at your post-race results after 94 laps of racing action. It's John Ballard to take race victory over Roy Hyde. Paul Schmallenberg starts out in third place to round of the podium with Kyle Labrie in fourth, Wayne Grassi fifth, David Phillips the second and sixth, Justin Levine in seventh, Brian Johnson in eighth, and then it's Clayton Hoffman and Heath Schneider rounding out the top 10.
And Randy Drumhiller are going to be in 11th, Josh Schaffner in 12th, J.R. Petrella in 13th, Robert Pattengale in 14th, Joffrey Souza in 15th, and Chris D. Johnson in 16th, Corey Cook 17th, Jarrett Phillips in 18th, Craig Johnson 19th, Kenny Powell rounding out the top 20.
That'll leave Brian Littleton at 21st, Paul Olson at 22nd, along with the last driver on the lead lap. Josh Ward is in 23rd, Greg Wychinski 24th, Connor Mulligan in 25th, Al Kozlowski, the first driver not to finish this race, 22 laps down in 26th place, Paul Daniel the second in 27th, Chad Sullivan 28th, John Muller 29th with Mark Sanchez in 30th, Seth Hollander, not Chris Rivera, Alan Hinson rounding out the 32-car grid. Hinson marked as a did not start on the day. So I want to apologize right away. We've been calling him John Ballard race. I have forgotten that is Channing Ballard, as a matter of fact. So a well-deserved win for Channing Ballard at the end of this one. And we'll kick things off here. We have not gotten third place with Paul Schmallenberg yet. So this time we'll start from the top and we'll work our way down. Channing Ballard joins us up here in the broadcast booth. And Channing, what a race for you. I mean, you managed to get yourself in the win. And we're talking about this before. You owe Roy Hyde a beer, my man.
Yeah, man, a complete strategy in this race here is all that got me in the position I needed to be in. It wasn't really a whole lot of racing. It was all positions gained on pit road and being able to not take tires and short fuel and just get quicker pit stops. I mean, honestly, as weird as it sounds, the pit crew won it for us at Talladega.
Well, you find yourself working from 28th place all the way up to take a race win after not setting the qualifying lap. Was that strategic on your part not to qualify?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to see how the race played out and see what everybody was feeling, and it was about like I figured. Let's get around the bottom and, fuel mileage. I mean, literally just get on pit road before everyone else and get going because 5 cars were quicker than 30. I mean, some great iRacing physics we got here.
Next race up is, of course, at America's Home for Racing. It's the Charlotte Motor Speedway, but not for the oval. It's the Roval that we're going to next. What's your thoughts as we head on over to some road course racing action?
Man, I'm not the best at road course. It'd be just a survival event there. I mean, I don't expect to be very competitive, but, we can try our best, and hopefully, chaos happens and might put us in a position to run well, but I'm not the best road course driver. I can promise you that.
Well, hopefully you'll still find yourself with a decent result as we head on over for the Charlotte Roval. Channing, it's always a pleasure to be able to talk to you up here when we get the chance. Before I let you go, anybody you'd like to shout out for your Reaper Speed Labs number 88?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody over at Legacy Esports, everybody that works on these Reaper Speed Lab cars. They do a phenomenal job. Boyd, Jared, Victor, Chris Hill, Randall Fox, bunch of names out there that they put in a lot of work for this car, and it shows up. I mean, it is Talladega. We got, it's a lot of luck has to happen. We just got lucky and got the lead, and I mean, it's so hard to pass it. It's really just whoever gets out front.
Well, then hopefully we'll be able to talk to you again in future races. If not at the Charlotte Roval, then hopefully before the rest of the Super Cup Series ends out. Well, thank you, Channing, for taking the time to come on up and join us in the broadcast booth, and we will see you next time at the Charlotte Roval.
Yeah, man. Thank you, everybody over here at ISCA. Y'all do a phenomenal job. Kenny, you put on a great league. It's always a pleasure to come run, and I appreciate you letting me run.
So that was race winner Channing Ballard, the Legacy Esports driver, taking a race victory courtesy of a huge shove from Roy Hyde. And speaking of Roy Hyde, we've got our second driver lined up for us. And Brian, you're standing by with P2.
Roy Hyde, nice to talk to you once again. I actually know Roy Hyde very well, and what a job out there, man. I mean, I feel like the race winner almost owes you a beer. Got to ask, what made you just stick with that bottom line?
Whatever, the 7 jumped out on us, and I was planning on going with him, but I just didn't have the momentum to push him, and I knew the pack was coming, so my only option really there was just to stay low and shove him as hard as I could and hope everything worked out for the best.
100%. Well, it definitely seemed to work out for the best. Your first, I do believe, top 3 of the season. What a job for you there. What kind of went into the race tonight? I mean, I know, Talladega, kind of a simple racetrack, but it looked like, a lot of struggles out there. Hard to pass, wouldn't you say?
Oh, extremely hard to pass. This package it's a draft package, and you got as Earnhardt Jr. says, it's the beach ball effect. You get to his bumper and you push him away. There's no can't get real big runs to pass somebody. And it's a lot of nose to tail, and hope to God you don't get caught into somebody else's mess before the end of it.
100%. We saw a lot of messes definitely generate out there, and you were able to make it by them. So definitely you were on the side of Lady Luck. I know that last week we were at Vegas, but I feel like this is the track everybody does the gambling, really. Great job to you, though, for sure, locking up second place. How are you feeling about the Charlotte Roval coming up? I know that's a difficult track.
Basic survival, I'll be honest. Like Winter said, I don't have the greatest road course abilities, and I just pray to God I'm there at the end with all the pieces still attached to the car.
100%. Probably the best thing you can hope for. Really going to just try to stay in between the lines, limit your mistakes. Who can we shout out for you tonight, Roy?
Oh, shout out the wife, all you guys up at the ISCA for putting us on. It's a really good league. I'm a newbie technically here, so I'm pretty impressed with it already. You guys up in the broadcast booth do great broadcasts, and just Brian Littleton helps me out with setups. You help me out with setups. We talk back and forth throughout the week, which is really nice. But yeah, just thanks to everybody that puts this stuff together.
Well, we definitely great job here. Congratulations on your second place for sure, and definitely had to be some type of consideration for the biggest mover, considering you came from the back all the way to the front. Very excellent work out there. That's Roy Hyde, your second place finisher. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
So that was P2 finisher Roy Hyde bringing it home, helping Channing Ballard to get his win tonight. And that brings up our third finisher on the night, Paul Schmallenberg. After Wayne Grossi finds himself, stepping out of line and dropping towards the tail end of the field, you find yourself now up in a third place finish in the last driver on the podium. I imagine, though, you're going to take any position you can get.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a surprising thing, considering I didn't get into pit road very good. It kind of crashed there. So sorry anyone who I affected with that. And then I was about to run out of fuel before that last yellow came out, so that saved me too. And then just kind of lucked into this third place here, but I'm going to take it for sure.
What's some of the challenges at Talladega? Obviously, we talked about the draft package a lot and how it makes passing a really difficult task nowadays. You need a lot of guys to work with. Was that your experience?
Yeah, it's not really easy to pass with this package. So you gotta do everything in the pits. You gotta get into the pits fast, which is what I was trying to do, and then I messed it up. Because if you go in the slow, you don't have a chance anymore. It's the only chance you got to really pass people. So, yeah, it's tough, and gonna be moving on with this third place. Gonna take this home for sure.
What's your thoughts about the Roval? Obviously, it's a road course that a lot of drivers certainly seem to love, and I know a lot of the spectators love that facility as well. Where does it sit on your spectrum?
Yeah, I think the spectators love it because it gets a little nuts. I like the road courses, but the Roval is kind of nuts. Even on cars that have grip, it's pretty tricky, and these cars, they don't have any grip, so it's going to be real fun to see what goes on in that race. It's going to be like racing on skateboards through Charlotte, so looking forward to that.
Should be a fun race indeed at America's Home for Racing. Well, Paul, first time you've been able to talk up with us. Hopefully it will not be the last before we let you go. Anybody you'd like to shout out for your number 72 machine?
Yeah, the broadcast, I saw your first broadcast for the first time in Vegas. Love your broadcast. It's awesome. Also, this league seems pretty cool. This is my second race, so thanks to Kenny putting this on, and thanks to Dave Phillips, my other guy at Uncle Jam's Kids Esports, helps with the setups, and really helped with this week. So yeah, thanks.
Well, hopefully we'll be able to talk to you more in the future. Paul, thank you for joining us up here tonight, though, meanwhile, and best of luck next week at the Roval.
All right, thank you guys.
That will do it then for the podium drivers at the end of this one. So, gentlemen, as we get set to close out our broadcast tonight, what's your take on how this race has gone and what we can expect from that final crucial race in the round of 6?
Well, I mean, I don't know what to expect from the Roval. I think it's going to be all about, really preparation, taking the time to get out there on the racetrack, getting that setup right, and also, getting, really, getting the track down itself.
Yeah, you want to talk about going from one spectrum to the other. Talladega was all teamwork, all getting onto pit road and working together. Now going to the complete opposite of a road course where it's really all about just yourself and limiting the number of mistakes you made. It's going to be a real interesting end.
It should be a very entertaining race as well at the Roval. What a way to end out the round of 6, and hopefully we'll be in for a good night of action, just as we have so far in the last few weeks as well. But for now, here from the Rock Auto 250 at Talladega Superspeedway, I have been Ola Rempel with Brian Britt and Chris Severa joining with me up in the commentary box with, of course, Rob Nellick doing a great job, as always, behind the cameras for tonight's presentation. Thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time to tune in for the iRacing Stock Car Association ButtKicker Super Cup Series. We'll see you next week in Charlotte.